Okay, so we're going to run through these, and I'm not going to do them in any particular order. But, okay, the first one is a cutting tool. Now, people hear that and they think knife. Some people think machete. Some people think saw. Other people think axe. You're all correct. How many different cutting tools you include into your bush bag is completely, totally up to you. It depends on how much weight you can carry. I would suggest, at the very least, a full tang fixed blade knife, probably a minimum of 4 inches, and Scandinavian grind is probably always the best way to go. Arguably. I mean, some people agree, some people don't. That's really up to you how you want to do it. But cutting tool generally is a must. And to me, as a bare minimum, I would say a knife and some form of saw. Folding saw probably being easier to carry. A bucking saw being really optimal, and from there, I mean, it's really up to you. So the next C is cordage. As a general kind of rule, I guess you could say, I tend to keep 3 different kinds of cordage with 3 different break strengths in my pack. I have number 36 tarred bank line, which is used quite a bit. I also have 550 paracord, which is also used a fair bit. I probably use those 2 more than anything else. And really it all depends on the task that I'm doing. But in addition, I also keep 1,100 pound break strength paracord, which is generally kind of a in case of emergency kind of situation, but it's got a really, really good break strength to it, and I keep that as well. Now, if you want to go one step further, you put in, say, some relatively good fishing line, especially if you have a fishing kit, as well as some snaring wire, and you're golden. Now, this is assuming you're going to a place where you can fish and or snare, but, I mean, it's generally a good idea to have those in your pack at all times anyway. The fishing line not only is it good for fishing, but it's also great as a very durable thread for gear repair and so forth. So, generally, those 3, always, and then the other 2 is a really, really good idea, but, I mean, you can get by with the 3 if you had to. The next C I want to talk about is cover. Now, a lot of YouTubers like to kind of romanticize the idea of going into the woods, building a shelter completely out of natural materials, and then camping out there for the night, hanging out, cooking some great food, and just generally having a good time. Knowing how to build shelters out of natural materials is definitely a good skill to learn, but it is also a very, very time-consuming process. If you will notice, if you look, some of these shelters that they build, as they're kind of doing whatever they're doing, they've built the shelter and they're kind of onto something else. You can see light coming through gaps in the back wall or whatever. That means that it is not windproof, and it is by far not waterproof. That's because building a natural shelter is very, very time-consuming. It takes at least a minimum, like 4 hours to build a good one that is going to basically protect you from the wind, if not an excess rain or, even snow. So you want to bring with you some form of cover, something that you can put up within a few minutes and just have your shelter there, quick and easy. A general kind of rule of thumb that I go by is whatever it is that I have, I want that thing to be able to cover me completely from head to toe, as well as 1 foot more above and below. No, that's actually a bad description. If I'm laying on the ground and I got my head at one end and my feet at the other end, I want an extra foot above my head and an extra foot below my feet. I'm 6 feet tall, so I want some sort of a tarp or heavy-duty mylar blanket or something or other to be at least 8 feet in length. That at least gives me enough cover that I can put it into a lean-to style configuration, it's probably the easiest, and have enough room to crawl right into the back of it and more or less stay protected if it's raining or snowing or whatever. Now, once again, cover is almost a misleading term, I think, because for your camp pack, you're going to want to have something to sleep under, that's your tarp. You're also going to want to sleep on something. That's some sort of a grabber blanket or, whatever, even if it's just garbage bags, something to sleep on to keep a moisture barrier. And then you're going to want something to sleep in, if at all possible as well. Some sort of a emergency bivy bag, very, very small sleeping bag, a wool blanket, just something to wrap yourself up in. So when we're talking about cover, I generally try to go for that kind of, something to sleep on, something to sleep under, and something to sleep in. Next up is container. Now, once again, I have seen bushcrafters go into the woods, gather up materials, and make containers out of wood and bark and all kinds of... It's really, really cool the way they do it, to be honest. But once again, very time consuming, and it takes a certain skill set to be able to utilize those things to their fullest potential. So you're going to want to have a stainless steel container of some kind that you can cook in, that you can boil water in, that you can store water in as well. I would go so far as to say that you probably want two. You want a Nalgene bottle, whether it be metal or plastic, metal probably being the better of the two, but even if it is plastic, you should also have a nesting cup that's made of stainless steel. You're going to want to boil up a bunch of water, put it into a container. Boil up more water, put it into the container. Keep yourself hydrated as much as possible. In addition, you're going to want to be able to cook up whatever food you have, can, find, whatever, and, still have your water on the side. You don't want to have to dump out that container of water in order to cook something, right? So you're going to want a nesting cup and some sort of like a Nalgene or a clean canteen or something along that lines to keep your water in. So, oh geez, what are they? I can't remember what they're called now, but they're basically water bottles, but they're also made of plastic. Like a plastic bag with a drink top, pop top thing on top. They're great. You could put like 10 of those in your pack. Each one will hold a half a liter of water or so, and it takes up almost no room, and it weighs almost nothing. And in a bad situation, you can boil up like 5 liters of water, put it in these 10 containers, and just, keep kind of rotating, giving your water enough time to kind of cool off as well. So, I mean, I would recommend some backup containers along that lines as well. And lastly, combustion. If you have the skills to make a friction fire, you will know that you want to have a better means of lighting a fire. It can take like 5 to even as much as 20 minutes to light a fire with a friction fire. The most proficient people can do it a little bit quicker than, people who only have rudimentary skills in it. And it is definitely a good skill to know. But do you want to pull out a Bic lighter and get your campfire going? Or do you want to spend X amount of time hunting down the materials you need to make yourself your spindle, your burn board, your block, get your bow ready and, all that kind of done together, and then, as much as 20 minutes on a friction fire, getting the whole fire lay set up, plus 5 to 20 minutes to get it going. So, like I say, good skill to have, but if you could just use a Bic lighter or even a ferro rod and get that fire going, lickety-split, why would you want to waste time, energy, calories, and effort on showing off, basically? So you want to have probably 3 ways to get a fire going, and then you want to have probably 3 ways of sort of supporting that fire lighting effort. A Bic lighter is always number one. If you don't have a lighter, get a lighter. The second, a ferro rod. Ferro rod is always a good way to go. It's a good skill to know how to do. And then your third option could be matches. It could be a sun lens. It could be just a spark wheel of some kind, as long as you have, like the appropriate tinder quicks or, whatever, or the proper skills in order to make yourself up that natural material that you need to use that spark wheel. But I mean, even a dead lighter could be a spark wheel, so a sun lens or matches or some other is probably a better way to go. That being said, I can't stress enough, a Bic lighter or some sort of lighter should be your first measure every single time. Now, I've mentioned tinder quicks. They are probably some of the best fire starting tinders that I've ever used. Those things are awesome. There's also the Coglin fire sticks. They're pretty good. Vaseline soaked cotton balls or Vaseline soaked little face cleaning pads. I'm not even sure exactly what they're called, to be honest, with the little round cotton pads. The list goes on and on and on, but you should have at least 3 things to assist you in getting that fire going. That being said, a gimmick that was going around that I think isn't really much of a gimmick anymore is magnesium blocks. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of those. I've used them. They do work, but they're a lot more work than they really need to be. Okay, a Vaseline soaked cotton ball and just a spark from a dead lighter, get that fire going like that. You don't necessarily need to sit around for minutes on end shaving down this little magnesium block to get a fire going, so I wouldn't recommend those. But that's combustion. So that's it for this video, part 2 of how to build your bug out bag. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all in part 3.